Welcome, Monday Morning Racer here, Between the Slicks, live, and let's talk about drag racing. Drag racing is happening everywhere. Drag racing is happening in so many different forms. Drag racing is alive and well. Unless, as I mentioned in a comment on Wes's show on Wednesday, that you just have this narrow tunnel vision focus on some particular form of drag racing. Yes, you can find problems somewhere. Nothing is perfect. But I think overall, we are living in some good days for drag racing. Folks, if you would please hit the like button, hit the share button, and tell folks about Between the Slicks. I think we're going to have a very good show, but interesting show. Later on tonight, our guest is Terry Totten. Terry has a unique place, I think, in the drag racing world. He is a Top Fuel driver. He is a Top Fuel owner. He is a Top Fuel tuner. He does tuning on the Howard Motorsports funny car as well that Chris King will be driving this weekend in NHRA competition. He seemingly does it all, but he has been behind the scenes this year in several situations, and no one has really taken the time to get Terry's perspective, I think. And that's what we want to do tonight. We want to get Terry's perspective on getting Mike Booker licensed and participating at the Summit Motorsports Park Norwalk Night Under Fire program. And Joey Haas. Joey Haas was in Terry Totten's Top Fuel Dragster when Joey went to the final round there at the Mile High Nationals. So we want to talk to him about that from the tuner and car owner perspective. And he's in the car this weekend at the NHRA Menards Nationals presented by Pet Armor. So Terry's going to be back behind the wheel the first time this year in NHRA competition from what I recall and what I remember so far this year. So looking forward to talking to Terry. He's going to be a return guest. We've had him on the show before, but he will be on around hopefully 8:30 as long as everything is fine concerning signal and getting on and us able to communicate with him. He was able to get in earlier. Don't see any issues why there would be now, but it is live. Things do change. Things do happen. Beyond NHRA competition, the PDRA, as James says here, happy race week, Lee. Yes, happy race week. We've got drag racing in Topeka, Kansas. Hello, Todd. We've got drag racing, PDRA, first time ever, Maple Grove Raceway. The PDRA, Professional Drag Racers Association, will be there just outside of Philadelphia, Reading, Pennsylvania, ripping up the spectacular track that is Maple Grove. Yes, Stan, to answer that question, yes, that's where I will be this weekend. I will be at the PDRA and love getting those firsts in first for the PDRA to be at Maple Grove. So I will be there. Top Fuel 173 says he will be at the PDRA. Good man. I hope that you will enjoy it. Some great drag racing happens at the PDRA and some great characters. And it's such a laid-back vibe compared to a NHRA national event that you have the same access that you have at an NHRA national event, but because people are not, I'll just say it this way, stressed out of the competitive nature, though it is extremely competitive when you look at the fields of Pro Nitrous, especially if you put an asterisk next to Jim Halsey, and Pro Boost and Extreme Pro Stock and 632. It's some of the closest racing you're going to experience in door car racing. Stan, is Sam going to PDRA? So Stan, he's referring to my co-host on the Competition Plus Power Hour. No, he will not be there. And Stan, we're not always at the same event. It's actually very rare that we are at the same events. And oftentimes worse, if Sam is at an event, I'm not there. And if I'm at another event, he is not there. We do have some plans of being at the same event in the future. Definitely looks like it may be the PDRA finals and the Bristol event for the NHRA in the countdown. That might be a possibility. Robert, he chimes in. I really enjoy watching this channel. This is informative and fun to watch. Thank you for what you do to help the sport. Robert, man, appreciate you watching. Thank you for chiming in, and tell folks about Monday Morning Racer. You guys watch the content. A lot of different content on Monday Morning Racer. It's not just a drag racing channel, though there is this show on Thursday night that is exclusively drag racing. But there are stories on NASCAR. Hope to be adding more of that in the future. And there is actual racing, whether that's sprint car racing on dirt, local asphalt track racing, definitely drag racing, as I'll be filming the PDRA event this weekend. So, Stan, Vegas for Halloween. Maybe, don't know. Not sure. There's a lot of events that overlap this year, and I just weigh what's close, what makes sense, what is going to get me more content. For example, why go to the PDRA over the NHRA? Well, when I go to the PDRA, I come away with at least 4 videos to go on the YouTube channel for you all as fans to enjoy, and it does help grow the channel. I'll be able to have a video for Pro Nitrous, Pro Boost, Extreme Pro Stock, and Outlaw 632 or Pro 632. But if I go to the NHRA, it's strictly photography, or I'm working directly with a team, and it's very limiting because of agreements what I can put on my YouTube channel and what I can use on the social media platform. So the liberty that you have the PDRA, and they are such a great group of welcoming media people in. That's one reason why I want to routinely go to the PDRA and catch PDRA events when I am able to do so. Tyler Crossnow, Crystal, Will Smith, Tommy Franklin, the owner, they have put together such a wonderful sanctioning body for the racer, and not only for the racer, but for media individuals as well. About the PDRA, folks, I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break, and during this break, let's talk about the competition of the PDRA. I'm going to throw in my picks, and you throw in your picks, and let's have a preview into the weekend for the Professional Drag Racers Association. Power-Built Tools exemplifies innovation in the tool industry. From hand tools, power tools, and even tool storage. Check out powerbuilt.com for Power-Built Tools. And remember, use promo code MMR15 for 15% off at purchase. Well, let's talk about PDRA, Top Fuel 173. He says, if wasn't for your channel, Monday Morning Racer on YouTube, I probably wouldn't know about the PDRA. Fascinating, Top Fuel 173. But I'm very glad to be able to provide a platform like the Monday Morning Racer and get the good news of the PDRA out. Look, I know a lot of folks love to say, hey, it's only 8th mile drag racing. And there are plenty of people who want to make this statement that 8th mile drag racing sucks. I love all types of drag racing. I have not yet experienced half mile and mile drag racing. I want to. I've seen 10th mile drag racing. There's been events in the past, long ago, that were even shorter, and they were still drag races. But the people, the cars, and the competitiveness that is in the PDRA, the cars are so close. They're not lying when they say they've got some of the, if not the top door slammers in the world. And the PDRA is doing something different. They do separate nitrous to the cars that have some type of boost configuration. And right now, that is working, and it's different from any other sanctioning body that I can think about. They are doing something unique, and it works for them. Granted, in the Pro Star event, they lined up the door slammers, and no matter what the combination was, they raced it out. And who came out on top? A nitrous car in Jim Halsey. All right, those picks. Stan chimes in. The pumpkin to the top. Talking about Jay Cox, Pro Nitrous. Well, Stan, I will say that is a great pick. I think if there's someone that can do it right now, it's going to be Jay Cox. He's already proven that. But Jim Halsey, he's definitely one that you could go with right now each and every week. But I don't like doing that. Jim and what he is doing, and Brandon Schweitzer, it is phenomenal. As he told everybody the last time that I interviewed him, it's the skirt. They got a skirt around the car so people can't see what's happening with the suspension when it's in the pits. And whatever they have found, if it's there or somewhere else, they have found what they needed to find to get the win. And I agree, Top Fuel 173. It's got to be Halsey for Pro Nitrous. But I don't like doing that. My pick, Pro Nitrous, and these do match up to what I said on the Competition Plus Power Hour. But Pro Nitrous, Tony Wilson. That's who I was, in fact, thinking about on Tuesday night. Let's move to, yes, Jason Harris is back in Pro Nitrous. Fascinating move. Shocked by that move. It looked like he was moving forward in Pro Boost and kind of got a slow start this year, but he had a great start last year. So I shocked by that move back, but him being back, that is huge. What could happen this very weekend with him being back and in competition. So Tony Wilson, Midnight Special. That's my pick in Pro Nitrous. Pro Boost, hometown kid. Finally, fully over the knee surgery, Kurt Stedding, P2 Contracting Racing Division. That is who I'm going to go with in Pro Boost. Extreme Pro Stock, Kurt Powers. We'll talk on him in just a few more moments. And looking to the rest of the weekend, that he's my pick in Extreme Pro Stock, Mountain Motor Pro Stock, and Wes DiStefano in 632, Pro 632. Wes has had the most consistent car. The most consistent car with the most consistent car that is regularly fast, regularly quick. He hasn't won every race, but he has been there each and every time near the end of these races, and he has won already this year. I think Wes makes a statement with the rise of Dylan Voss and the rise of Darrell Stewart. He's going to make a statement this weekend, the first time at Maple Grove. So Maple Grove, you all being drag racing fans, Maple Grove is known for what? And I'll give Stan's pick here for Pro Boost, Todd Tutterow, which is the other P2 contracting car. Todd tuning on both. Good to have King Tut in your corner. That's a good pick for sure. Maple Grove is known for records, fast speeds, shocking ETs, and miles per hour. Top Fuel 173 says Maple Grove Rainway. That's a reality. And I think that's a reality for NHRA when they do race there. When do those records come? They don't come in August. They come later on after Labor Day when the NHRA traditionally shows up to Maple Grove Raceway. In fact, the last time that I was at Maple Grove, I was right on the line behind the pair that was Leah and Brittany smashed the record and saw Joe Costello interviewing Grubnick after that pass. So it is known for holding and creating record runs. That will not be the case this weekend, except for the reality that being the first time there, that the PDRA will set in the record books the records that they will hold for themselves at the facility. But the forecast right now, tomorrow, it is going to be a high of 94. And it will not dip below the 90s until after 7 p.m. for the qualifying sessions tomorrow. Qualifying will be interesting. Qualifying at this event might be an event where you see the brackets, the ladders, definitely stacked differently than what we might see at an early Galat or a late Virginia Motorsports Park. Chris Powers posted in the Extreme Pro Stock PDRA Facebook group some of the times in testing today from some of the pro stockers. And Kurt Powers, he had the quickest ET at a 4:14. Then Montecalvo at a 4:18, Hughes at a 4:19, and Boone at a 4:20. Those cars are capable of going much quicker than that. Powers mentioned that there was a lot of tire shake, and I think you're going to see a lot of cars from Pro Boost, Pro Nitrous, 632, Extreme Pro Stock dealing with tire shake this weekend. Now, it does look better going into Saturday, but Friday and Saturday, it looks like they're going to be clear days, sunny days, high of 84 on Saturday, race day for the PDRA. And then toward the finals, the semifinals and the finals, it looks like it's going to dip into the high 70s. Top Fuel 173 asks, what's car counts look like for Pro Nitrous or Pro Boost? So car counts in Pro Nitrous and Pro Boost so far this year, for the most part, there have been full fields. I think there might be one or two races where there were only 15 cars, but for the most part, it has been full fields wherever they have gone for the categories of Pro Nitrous and Pro Boost, and people have went home. They've packed and left, and we're not talking about just one car. Sometimes it's been 4 or 5 cars going home. I do not know about this weekend. If I remember correctly from what I understand from the PDRA website, I need to confirm this though, but they don't put out an entry list like the NHRA does with what you can do on like Tuesday morning before a NHRA national event. You can go see the entry list and have a good idea of who is going to be there. The PDRA doesn't have that resource necessarily, but so far been full fields. The class that has been, how many cars are going to be there? What's it going to look like with the ladders and the brackets is the Extreme Pro Stock class. Extreme Pro Stock, I think, is slowly having a positive trend in its class, but it's splintered. Even though they have their own association, you have some guys that want to go quarter mile racing, you have some guys that just want to do eighth mile racing, and all these guys, they just need to get together and they need to focus on one series and one group and run in it. I really think that that body needs to be, in particular, the PDRA. The NHRA, though they do quarter mile for the Mountain Motor Pro Stock guys, and they're able to really stretch their legs over 220 miles per hour, the fact is they don't get paid anything really to win, and they get a little wally. It's not a big wally, it's a little wally when they win. Well, when they win at the PDRA, they're getting a full-size 660 man. Race where you're appreciated is what I'm saying. Justin Y'all, good to have you on, man. What's up, Lee says. And yeah, he confirms it. No, they don't put the entry list out. I've never seen that. Maybe that's something they can start. That'd be neat to see, and it would definitely help on Thursday night in a show about drag racing to communicate, hey, here's who is on the list, and answer a question of what the fields look like. Ryan Hill, Monday morning racer. Ryan, good to have you on. Ryan's a part of the Mad Max Fuel Altered / Funny Car team. Jax, Good to have you on. Good to have you on as well. So, folks, definitely it is going to be a hot one. We're not going to see any records. We're not going to see that first 3-second run for the Extreme Pro Stockers this weekend at Maple Grove. Maybe if they did Maple Grove later in the year, granted that would get in the way of the NHRA national event. So maybe earlier in the year, but that region of the United States of America can definitely have challenging weather conditions earlier in the year. Let me say this. We're talking about Maple Grove. I believe it's about an hour and 45 minutes northwest. Beaver Springs, Pennsylvania. There is a great drag strip that you need to check out. Beaver Springs Dragway in Beaver Springs, Pennsylvania is a gem of a local little drag strip. It's nestled in this valley, and you're surrounded by the mountains, and it is just a picturesque, great drag strip that Mike McCracken, yes, McCracken, he and his son, Mikey, they have done a great job in building that track up, and they maintain it wonderfully. And though it is a small track, they are doing big things. So if you ever get to Beaver Springs Dragway and you got time to do that, go check it out. Go check it out. Now, John Force. Talk a little NHRA here. Had him on the Competition Plus. Had him on the Competition Plus Power Hour. And always interesting to have John on camera, talking to him, great energy. He mentioned to me and Sam on the Competition Plus Power Hour that he wants to expand John Force Racing. He wants to expand John Force Racing, that he's not done racing and he wants to grow it. Not just have Austin Prock back in the seat, but have 2 top fuel dragsters, to have the 2 funny cars, and it be a powerhouse team. And he said, look, my perspective is going to be different. It's not going to be glass half empty. It's going to be glass half full. And we're going to keep pushing forward to make JFR, John Force Racing, the top out there in NHRA professional drag racing. I think that does not fare well for the rest of the competition if John Force has that drive right now and that desire right now. He is an individual that has shown decade after decade after decade that he can get the job done. I mean, look what he was accomplished in his own story. There was a day and time, John Force, nobody would have thought that he would be who he is today, but he, in his wisdom, and I know we love to think that he's crazy, he has no sense to him, but the fact is he must be an intelligent and wise and smart man to get accomplished and put the right pieces together. He goes and gets Austin Coyle. He gets the right people together, and he goes to a 2-car team, and so on and so on and so on, and has created a drag racing empire. So, John Force Racing, it's going to be interesting in the next few years. Going to be interesting the next few years. Now, with that stated, Diane Earnhardt mentions electric toasters. That's what John was referring. He was kind of saying, Bobby, don't be knocking on electric. We got to have our electric toasters. And Diane, Beaver Springs near Pittsburgh. I would say it's not quite near Pittsburgh. It's more in the center of the state. It would still be closer to Harrisburg than over Pittsburgh. That would be the case. Troy says, the GOAT. Yep, he definitely is. He definitely is the GOAT. Ryan, what's Ryan saying? I think we need to get back on the subject of only allowing 1 or 2 engines in a weekend for pro racing. Well, we have later on the right guy to talk about that, Terry Totten. And it is something that I think has got to happen. It's got to be looked at seriously, because other forms of racing have done that very thing. You know, there used to be a day and time, for example, NASCAR, you didn't have to race the engine that you qualified with. And there was a whole entire industry within the engine building industry that individuals built only qualifying engines. And then you had your race engine. Well, they put a stop to that. Maybe the NHRA has got to look at something like that. Maybe it's got to be 10 runs on a crank or something. I don't know what that number is. I just threw it out there. But in the world of professional drag racing, it has become a situation where if you got the money and you're willing to blow it up, you can go out there and run the fastest and run the quickest. But that is what it's going to cost. And I will tell you from my experience working with Doug Foley and Doug Cook, and you're talking about someone that does know how to tune a car and does know how to not nick parts, as it were. You go out there and run 370s, which a high 370 to some might sound conservative. When you've got cars dipping into the mid 360s, run 370s, you can still hurt stuff, which nonetheless, it is nitro. You can hurt stuff at any time, any point. You never know what might happen. But yes, I think we've got to look into some limits for sure. Troy, they called him the bridesmaid back in the day. Yeah, he did. Yeah, John Force regularly was runner-up in NHRA competition. Now, during that time when he was regularly runner-up in NHRA competition, John did get wins. He got wins in AHRA competition, and he got wins in like the popular hot rodding type of national events. So he wasn't winless, but he was winless runner-ups in NHRA competition until, well, up there in Montreal. But Diamond P wasn't there, and he will remind you that Diamond P was not there for his first win. And it was, well, it's been all history since then for sure. Going bracket racing. What's up, MMR? Doing great. Hit that like and share, guys. Hey, thank you for that. Guys, check out Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel when you get an opportunity. They are doing a great job talking bracket racing because that's their channel, Going Bracket Racing. And they've even had me on a few times. They've even brought me on twice. I've been a repeat guest. Somewhere. Wow. Stan, if F1 limits engines, why doesn't NHRA do it? Almost every other motorsport sanctioning body is doing something like that right now. And I think the NHRA has got to look into it. Top Fuel 173. I don't know why the NHRA doesn't try what NASCAR is doing with its next gen car to cut costs. There's a lot of things I think the NHRA could take from NASCAR in the next gen program. Not copycat it, not everything. I don't necessarily like everything that NASCAR is doing with the next gen, but there are things that they could look at, and for Top Fuel, for Funny Car, and for Pro Stock, I think could be implemented for sure. Ryan, help the little guy get into fuel racing. Yes, but hey, man, thanks to Chris Graves and what he's doing with Nitro Chaos and with Funny Car Chaos, the little guy can go kind of race on a professional level and can get some flow racing to airtime and be mentioned in Drag Illustrated and things of that nature, though it is an NHRA competition. Diane Earnhardt, is Ron Capps going to get with John Force Racing? So, folks, I got a few more moments. So we got to bring Terry on as our guest. It's right at 8:30. But to answer your question, is Ron Capps going to get with John Force Racing? I doubt it. I doubt that. And here is why, Diane. Had Ron Capps on the Competition Plus Power Hour on Tuesday nights on Competition Plus TV on YouTube several weeks ago. And he mentioned he wants to be a car owner. So what Antron Brown is doing, transitioning to being a car owner from being a Don Schumacher Racing driver, that's what Ron Capps apparently wants to do too. So I think you're going to see Ron Capps in a Ron Capps Racing funny car in the future at some point. When? I don't know. Stan, I liked the one guest on the CP Power Hour this week. Hey, we want to switch it up every now and then. You know, me and Sam and Bobby and all that we've talked about with that show that sometimes three's a crowd, and we want a little bit more time to dive in with some guests. It's just a matter of what's going on in the world of drag racing and who we've got on for sure. Ryan. Well, other series have 40s cars on the starting grid to keep the fans interested. You know, Ryan, I don't think drag racing necessarily always needs 40 cars. And remember this about drag racing. You just stated there are 40 cars, and I would imagine you're alluding to NASCAR. The classic number for many, many years was 43 cars was a full field. Granted, that number is less now. So, 40 cars. I would argue almost every drag race has 40 cars and more. I think one of the issues we have right now in drag racing is we have, and I know I'm talking to fans, but I'm a fan as well. I think some of the fans of drag racing right now are tuned in to just one or two particular classes, and they don't really appreciate drag racing in its whole. They are fans of Top Fuel, but they're not fans of Pro Stock. Or they're fans of Pro Stock and they're not fans of Top Fuel. Or they're fans of Funny Car and they don't know what a fuel altered is. Or they are fans of a particular class or form of drag racing, and they don't think any other form of drag racing is actually drag racing. I'm a fan of Top Fuel down to bracket racing of all types until they start doing that delay box stuff when they can actually be running out faster. I can't do it. I can't do it. Granted, though, the machines that are involved in that, they are great machines, great engineering, and great people involved in that. I have to do that. I have to give them that. But look at the U.S. Nationals coming up. There's no lack of entertainment. There's going to be 1,000 drag cars there. We have somehow got to get people piqued and interested in other sections of drag racing. Beyond just John Force, beyond just Top Fuel. Look, I get it, man. Top Fuel is cool. Sights, sounds, flames, noise, smells. And I don't know exactly what the answer is. Maybe sometimes it is turning the scoreboards off. I don't know. But I do wish people had a great appreciation for the classes from the Kings, as they're called, all the way down, except for those delay box guys. Class racing, 890, 990. Nope. Folks, we're going to take a break, and we've got Terry Totten. He is backstage, so we're going to take a break, and we're going to bring Terry on and chat with him on, well, the year so far and the weekend upcoming for him at Topeka, Kansas. Hero Soap Company is a veteran-owned establishment that produces all-natural, essential oils infused soap that is sold with a portion of the proceeds supporting other veteran groups. Hero Soap Company. Heroes supporting heroes. Be a hero yourself and buy a bar and let freedom clean. Terry.
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. I can hear you. You can hear me. Where are you phoning in from, man?
We're down in Topeka, just finishing getting the car serviced and ready for our first qualifying session tomorrow.
All right. Good deal. And at the track set up. Look, I'm going to dive right in on this. I've got to ask you, What are your thoughts right now? Going to be back in the car, not just working on the car, not just walking around the car, not just staging the thing. You're going to be in it this weekend for like the first time since like last year, I guess. So what's your thoughts, man?
Indy last year was the last time I was in it. I'm excited. I mean, we got a really good race car. We love being able to go racing and just not killing everything. So it's been so much fun, and now I get back in it. You know, and I don't know, you know, NHRA, I've talked to them. We may be going to another race next week. We may be going to Brainerd. We may try to keep riding this little wave we're on. Just kind of depends on how things go. But it's exciting. I'm excited to get back in there.
Yeah, I bet you are. I bet you feel like, man, I finally get a crack at it, because I know that it has definitely had to been exciting for you to see Mike do well in the car, see Joey do well in the car, and roll out the platform with Chris King. But I'm like, I know you got to be like, man, this is my shot this weekend. Maybe I can make it to the final. You better have your interviews ready, man.
Yeah, that'd be nice to be able to just, you know, even go another round. You know, and we're there. I think we've seen exactly how far this car will go, you know, without making some improvements on it. So we know where our threshold is. So as long as we tickle right at that spot, you know, we did a race last weekend, and the car had its best early numbers ever, and we weren't even trying. We actually tried to slow the thing down, and it just wanted to go faster, which means that tomorrow night, when we have the good air, this could really be we could dip into the 380s now. We can start getting into the 300 and teens. And as long as we can make those steps and not hurt anything, then we'll just keep plugging away.
So we already had some fans in the time before having you on the show mention, all right, we need to get to a point where there are some rules in place with NHRA where parts and pieces are being used over just maybe one time and chunking them, you know, it going on down to alcohol that quickly. So obviously at this point, y'all are famous for not taking the heads off at Denver and accomplishing that feat in modern day nitro racing. So what are your thoughts on it? And I think you're a great guy to ask, because your entire program for a while now has been run these 390s consistently and don't hurt anything. And right. when I heard the news that you all were running as well as you were in Denver and Joey was going rounds, I wasn't shocked. I've been in your pits before. I've covered you before and interviewed before. And I'm like, that's just what Terry does. They want to go A to B and they can get it done. So you're the guy to ask. What do you think the NHRA could do to make it a little bit more affordable, even though it might be slower? And where do they need to focus? Is it, you know, runs on the crank, runs on the head? What is it?
Well, in every sanctioned motorsports, there is some type of limitation, whether it's a restrictor plate, whether it's a limitation of this or a limitation of that. You know, right now, Top Fuel, Nitro Funny Cars, we're about the only thing out there that is an unlimited class. I mean, you have to follow the rules, but you can spend as much money or do whatever you want as far as you're within the boundaries of the law, so to speak. So that really limits it to being a sport that is dominated by money. You know, it has been for a long time, and that's the way it is. You know, they spend sponsors' money. They do what they can to pass stuff down to other teams. But if you want to level the playing field, you know, they've always talked about a couple different things, like, you know, limiting the size of the fuel pump. That's, you know, way back, Virgil Hartman had, you know, talked with Don Sasenka 20 years ago about, you know, if they just put a limit on the fuel pump, that ends the problem, you know, as far as making it more of a level playing field, where it's just not money taking over. And that, to me, is about the only thing that they can do. You know, they put rev limiters on them to slow them down. They do this to slow them down, but there's no real level playing field, and there won't be until they limit the amount of fuel. You know, they tried limiting the percentage of nitro, and then they just stuffed more alcohol in it. You know, so there's really, you know, and the biggest drawback to that was everybody said, well, they can't do it. Well, they do it in the Heritage Series, you know, so they can do it. They just don't want to do it, and that's fine. You know, that's not what they're ready to do at this point. But there's going to be a shortfall of cars, and because there's not enough people out there and not enough businesses that want to spend the kind of money that it takes to go out and run in the top 10. It's just not going to happen. You know, I heard a little talk about, you know, giving them one short block for the weekend. You know, that's, you know, that is one way to do it, where everybody's going to have to slow it down. You're going to have to run conservatively, or you're going to be out, you know, and it's not going to be anybody's fault but your own. But there's also parts failure, you know, to a certain percentage. If you talk to Bill Miller, he'll tell you, you know, even his connecting rods, there's a 10% failure rate on a connecting rod. I think that's gotten better. You know, that number was thrown out there probably 8 or 10 years ago, but there's still, you know, there can always be some type of failure. And is it fair to only have one short block? Yeah, or simple mistake, you know, as an example, you know, somebody doesn't get oil in the car. That happened to Bernstein one time. Went out and did a burnout, didn't have oil in the car. Well, that would end your weekend. If it was qualifying, you could still go ahead and fix your car and go back out and run. So I don't know, you know, maybe one qualifying motor, one eliminations motor. Maybe that would be an answer. That way it gives everybody 1 second shot at it, but you couldn't just go run 4 qualifying sessions, pull a short block out with the rods hanging out of it and throw another one in. I don't know how much that would level the playing field, that anybody would be that conservative. These guys got it down to a science, it seems like, that they could still do it with 2 motors and run as hard as they are. So honestly, my take on it is, if you want to have a level playing field to run at the highest level, you put a limit on the fuel pump, because that controls everything. Once you limit the fuel, you control everything. You control the boost, you control how hard you can pull on the motor with the clutch, you can control everything with just fuel, just by slowing it down. You know, they say you got to limit a 96-gallon pump, you know, or a 98-gallon pump, and that's all you're going to get. And if that's all you get, then you can run 390s at 300 and not hurt anything. And that just, and everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot more people could go out and do that and not just constantly kill parts. So, I mean, if I was running a sanctioning body and wanted to put a limitation on it, I would say fuel, just like they've done in every other thing. NASCAR's done it with restrictor plates, size carburetors, and everything else about it has all been about fuel, because once you have a limit on fuel, everything else is limited. Percentage of nitro didn't do it. You know, like I say, they just added weight to the cars, you know, and stuffed more fuel through it, and just tried to bring it back up to trying to hydraulic it, just using alcohols to nitro. So that would be
fuel. And I would say, I've heard others, and there's an example out there that Doug Foley, who I do work for, he had a win over Clay Milliken in Norwalk that he's famous for, because he pedaled it like 20 times within the quarter mile. And the announcer's like, I don't even know how it didn't blow up. And Doug, you know, obviously years on down the road, he's telling me, well, there's no way we could have blown it up. The pump was so small, I was able to do that with that car, because it just wasn't pumping that much fuel compared to what was in the car that weekend. He's like, we've doubled it from what that was.
You go back a long time ago, Don Sasenko was running 280 miles an hour with a 48-gallon pump. And people to this day still don't believe that you can possibly run 288 or 285 miles an hour in the quarter mile with a 48-gallon pump, but you can. I know you can, because I've seen the records of it. And, you know, pedaling it, you got to, you know, what it comes down to is when you leave the line and you stomp on the throttle and you got a 116-gallon pump, you build up so much pressure on the front side of the barrel valve that when you let off the throttle, it doesn't change instantaneously. That pressure has to bleed down. These guys are finding out now, just in a conversation earlier today, that check valves aren't big enough for these pumps when you step back off the throttle and you step back on it. Even Tim Wilkerson was over here talking about he had to increase the size of his check valve because of what happened to him just a week ago, or 2 weeks ago. that was attributed to the fact that when he stepped back on it, there was too much fuel there, and it couldn't return it, and it sent it to the motor, and bad things happen. So yeah, fuel can save parts, it can save money, it can save a lot of things, and it can level the playing field in such a way that it would make it more competitive, I think, as far as having more competitors out there, because the cost could come substantially down, and still there's going to be the guys out there that are going to have the best of the best, and they're going to outrun, on most of the time they're going to outrun me. But at least I have a fighting chance on Sunday that I can, be running with the same parts. We ran last weekend, and I had a little too much clutch in the car in the middle, and it pulled the motor down. And when we looked at the computer, I was returning 3 gallons of fuel. I was sending 78 to the motor and only returning 3 gallons of fuel, which means I was on the verge of just going flat. I mean, I'm already lean at only returning 3 gallons. So, but we pulled the motor down too hard. So, that's where I say we found the limitations of our program, is that we can't, that's where we're going to be at 390 to 750 feet. We got to slow it down to get it to the other end of the track, because we're running out of fuel. Or I get a bigger fuel pump, and bigger fuel pump comes bigger problems and a bigger not a bigger paycheck, but a bigger bill at the end of the weekend, because you'll end up hurting more parts, if it's not right. So, I'm 15 gallons below or more, 15 to 20 gallons less fuel in my fuel system than, say, a Capco car. They know how to control it. That's something that if I went to a bigger pump, my learning curve would start over. And at this point, where we're running is where we really are comfortable at. It's within our budget. It's everything about what's going on right now is good for us. And if the other guys can't get it together on Sunday, then it's bad for them, because we are going to be there, and we're going to take a shot at it every single time.
So Top Fuel 173, he alludes to communication with the NHRA and how that does work. So how is this stuff brought up to them? And you did mention, the NHRA has been talking to you. So what has the communication been like here recently after Denver, and, having Mike Booker and Chris King show up and some, new blood?
They want people out. They want drivers out there. They want racers. Nobody wants to go to a 14-car field. I mean, when you're the sanctioning body, you want 16 cars there at a minimum. You want them fighting to get in. That's what makes good racing. If nobody has to fight to get in, it kind of can tone it down a little bit, so to speak. I mean, it's still, anytime you put nitromethane in a car and stomp on the loud pedal, it's going to make noise and it's going to be ferocious. But it takes a little bit of the competitiveness out of it, because you're not fighting for a position. So I think it's been good. I mean, Terry Haddock backed out of this week due to the simple situations that he's having, that it's struggling with the cost of going racing, and those struggles are having him have to sit out to regroup, which isn't good for the sport. Terry has done a lot for the sport. He's brought a lot of drivers up. He helped me. He's helped several more. He's got, a new driver, Buddy King. He got Mitch King relicensed. He's got, or Buddy Hall. He's got Mitch King relicensed. There's a lot that he has done. And unfortunately, now we don't see him here. And it's not even going to be well, I guess there's other things that have happened. But long story short, we need to keep cultivating new bodies, new drivers, people like Joey. I talked to Joey, and we were just a good match. It just worked out really well. He had some help and I needed help, and I had a car and he wanted to drive. So the things just kind of fit together. And, now we got Chris King that's working over in the funny car side of it, and Mark Howard bringing a car in. And, those are huge things. Those were not small feats by any means. Just even getting out to an NHRA event at this point to get a car legal and ready to run, it's a small miracle, it seems like, because it just is constant work, and you keep pushing forward. I mean, there's no easy route, and there's no silver bullet. You have to fight to get there. And we've been struggling, up until last year when things really started to turn around for us. And I had been doing it a long time. I thought I knew a little bit. And come to find out, every time I step on the car, or every time I tune the car and I look at the parts, I've learned something. And that's going to continue. And we want, I'm trying to talk to people about, driving my car, come and get licensed. If you want to drive a nitro car, I'll put you in a nice, it's not going to be a world record setting car, but it can get you licensed, and it running 390, you're not going to lose every round. That's for sure. At some point you're going to win. But a lot of it comes down to money, especially on their part. And even for young people that want to drive a car, it's very hard to go out and sell yourself when you've never been in a car, so it becomes a catch-22. I can't get in a car because I don't have any money. I can't get any money because I can't get a car, so it's crazy deal. But we still try to do it. I mean, we're going to continue to, and if I can, talk to some other people. I've been trying to, pick on some people, so to speak, that are almost there, that are licensed in other classes that make getting licensed easier. That keeps the cost down, and it can move them up, and they can bring to the table what they can find. And that's just kind of what we've been doing.
All right. The Mike Ashley asks of you, what does Terry like better, driving or tuning? So do you have a preference?
Honestly, I like being at the track. I like tuning. I like driving. In actuality, I'm not a young gun, and I like driving for fun more than I do, in competition. If I was given the opportunity, or was to make a choice on whether I'd want to tune or drive, I would be a tuner, because I think I can go farther with being a tuner than I could be with being a driver. I'm just not, next year I'll be 55 years old at the end of this year. Now I got to go have EKGs done before I can get my license renewed, and that just sounds like pain to me. Although it's a good idea, but I would love to step over to tuning straight out. This funny car that Mark Howard is putting out there, and this dragster, that's I think if I had to make a choice, that's where it would be. I'm going to keep my license up regardless. I'll make another pass. I might drive Brainerd next week. It just depends. Joey's got some commitments for his business, and that's going to hit all of us at one point. So, we may take the car up there just so I can keep going.
So Terry, everybody would look at the weekend at Mile High Nationals and say, hey, wow, they, some would say, oh, they lucked up, or they, got by a few, like what happened with Leah, but you have put in a whole lot of work, because I can remember you rolling into Gainesville and being like, why did I come to Florida? And you had challenges at Palm Beach for the test there. You were having challenges at the Gator Nationals trying to get Mike licensed. And you and your group have put in a ton of work. So talk to me about this journey and how fulfilling a final round appearance at the Mile High Nationals was.
Yeah, nothing worthwhile is ever easy. So there's always going to be trials. And I get a little down on myself probably more than anything. And there's a lot of nerves in there too, and you're doing all this stuff, and you're only one slip away from, parking for a while, if we dropped an intake valve and set the supercharger off, broke the manifold in half, torched a set of heads and some ballistic bags and stuff like that, I wouldn't be out the next weekend. That's for sure. I don't have that kind of parts. But the Haas's taught me a lot, Joey and his dad, that, that's why we don't quit. We went down to license Joey and we were struggling there too, but we didn't quit. We went out to license Mike Booker, and we had problems, but we didn't quit. And when it seemed overwhelming, Mike always said, the things he was told when he had gone out to the 9/11 after that to help out is that all you can do is do the next thing. So you just keep moving forward. You keep doing the next thing. And that's kind of what, he had told, Mike had put a lot of faith in me, and more than I probably deserved, because I'm probably my own worst enemy when it comes to getting confident about stuff. I'm confident on a run as soon as it's over. So that's not the way, but it keeps me conscious about everything that's going on, and I'm always looking at stuff very, very close. I just don't want anything bad to happen, so I'm probably a little overprotective of everything and everyone that is around me when we're doing this. So for everything to have come together, yeah, there's going to be people. There's always going to be somebody saying, you lucked out. If Leo's car wouldn't have the oil leak, it would have, just smoked you. Well, but that didn't happen. And the next time might not happen again. It might, but the thing is, we're still going to be there. And that's what they got to realize. Kim Richards, Dick LaHaye's daughter, she said one time when I was racing back with Sasenka, the one thing about those guys over there is that you don't mess up very often when you're racing them, because they're going to be there. We've been so lucky. We haven't gone out and smoked the tires. We haven't gone out, we haven't had any kind of issues like that we've, little gremlins that can get in the car that just eat up your time and your runs and everything. We've been able to just keep knocking them down one by one by one. Which even Steve Torrance said, when you have a little bit of luck on your side and you're doing things right and you're up on your game, you become a very dangerous combination to take lightly. So the haters are going to hate. It's not a big deal. We don't care. We're still going to go out and run our car. And going back to what you were talking about, as far as slowing the cars down. If you ran a 395 to a 387 and you didn't have a scoreboard up there, do you think the fans would really care? Especially if it was a nice night pass and you had flames up over the wing. That's not what they're there for. The scoreboard's not necessarily what everybody is there for. For the guys that are running for the points, yeah, it is, because that's their measure. But to the fans, it's the experience, it's the smell, it's the sound, it's the feel. It's a lot more than just that score number that pops up that, they ran 2/10 better. If there wasn't a scoreboard, I think people would still show up. I just don't think they'd care as much about who won and who lost. Side-by-side racing is what drag racing to me has always been about. You go out to do a match race, the last thing you want to do is smoke the tires. People come from all over, they pay money, they come in to see it, you get a promoter, they bring you in, and then you smoke the tires. You can't do that. So that's kind of where, my tuning skills came from. A guy who, that's all he did was put on shows, and to put on a show, you have to do what you said you were going to do. So, but going to the final rounds, yeah, it was something else, regardless of what anybody else thinks. It's always going to be with us. And, some people have raced years and years and years and never had that opportunity. Joey is a phenomenal driver. You guys seen his reaction times. You've seen him do everything right. It's kind of a funny story real quickly. Joe and Joey have been racing for so long that when Leah broke, Joe had already told Joey. I didn't know that. My back was to them. I was in the right lane. They were in the left. I didn't know that. So if you ever seen it on TV, I'm in the car basically with Joey. He and I are having a conversation because I didn't know that he already knew. And I'm trying to tell him, she broke. Joey already knew. So he goes like this. And I thought he was pointing at the dash and he was having a problem and he was going to shut the car off. And his dad's over there ready to grab me and drag me off to the side. And I'm ready to climb in the car with Joey and tell him he's going to take the light. So it's kind of funny because after it was all over, we're all big smiles and everything like that. And there's it was hit us really. It was like, wow, what just happened? He and I were going at it. So then when Clay came up, there was a funny story behind that too, because we had done, we ran, Clover came over and told me he wanted to give us a head start at Norwalk. And I said, why? He thought our game was a little bit slow on the line. And I said, well, we're not slow and we'll speed it up. Not a problem. So, so that's where the kind of relaxed lay on the car was, is that, I thought we were starting at the same time. And, so when we were going to stage the car, once again, my back is to him. I don't know what's going on over there. I look at him, I get a heads up, nod, they're ready to go. thought they were putting their bottle up to the injector to start the car. I go ahead, turn around. My guy starts the car, turn back around, and there's nothing going on over there. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, I guess we're just going to have to wait here, because I learned a lesson against David Grubnick is that don't do your burnout till they're ready to go, because it starts putting heat in the clutch. So I turned around, I kind of leaned against the car, and I thought, I'm going to be here a minute, because they hadn't even started their car yet. And like I said, I had learned my lesson. It wasn't going to happen again. I wasn't going to go do that, and I wasn't going to do it to Joey, because all it does is get my clutch got so hot on that one run. When I stepped down on the throttle, no, it just put my head in a paint shaker. And then when I was Dallas last year, Joey we got kind of burned down. When Tony was in the car, I don't know, I think they had a problem over there, but I once again sent Joey out to do a burnout too soon. And we use a lot of fuel, and that car left with front end up about 1.5 feet off the ground. I mean, it bent the wheelie bar. It slammed it down so hard because we had no weight up front. I mean, it was dangerous. And I was to the point where I was thinking about shutting him off, just because I knew how light we were going to be, because we don't run, any extra fuel on it. So, it's been such a treat to be able to do this. I mean, I'm completely blessed to be able to come out here and do this and have people have faith in me, and actually some people having more faith in me than I have in myself. And a great family that just, they stand behind me. My girls are starting to get into it, starting to enjoy it. My daughter wants to go racing with me now when we go racing. So it's been a really, really good year, and I hope we just continue on with it.
And see, folks, this is why I try to get Terry Totten on interviews, because once you get him wound up, he's a doggone good interview, and he's he's more of a character out there than you would think. Yeah, Terry, look, thanks for the great information, including us in. Congratulations to you and the team. And look, Stan asks, is there any opportunity for your team and other teams like yours to have like an 8-car series out in the Midwest? And with that, with what Stan's saying, I want to ask you about your thoughts on Nitro Madness with the funny cars and Nitro Chaos, those type of events, and where do they fit in with your program? Like, can you see yourself rolling out the Top Fueler at Eddyville next year, or wherever they might have Nitro Chaos?
Well, we actually, Scott Palmer had called me in regard to that and wanted me to come out there, and my dragster was running good, and I had a commitment for the weekend after that, so I didn't want to risk any potential problem with the dragster. So we elected to take the funny car up to the Nitro Chaos. I know there's some talk going on about some people trying to do a little, more of a booked-in match race type. I mean, and not saying that there's not going to be competition to there and not going to be a winner of it, but yeah, I guess the only downfall for a guy like me is the winner take all is something that just isn't really something that I can do, because if they had more of a qualifying purse, like a go per round type of pay structure rather than a winner take all would be benefit to a couple teams, especially, like one like mine that just can't go out there, and just throw the kitchen sink at it for 4 rounds and hopefully we win the whole thing, because we would be upside down. So far, it wouldn't be worth it. So that's the only downfall that I see for some of the events. I mean, the Nitro Chaoses and things like that, Chris is great, and we want to support his deal. We want to fly his flag at every opportunity. But in our situation, the main things that come into play are distance that we're going to have to travel, okay, and how many passes that they're going to actually want to have to make before we can get into the money rounds. I did some outlaw fuel altered racing for a while that did more of what's called a Chicago style finish, where 8 cars would go run. The 2 fastest would come back and run for 1 and 2. The next 2 fastest would come back and run for 3 and 4, and they divvied up the money after that. That way you don't have to make 4, you don't have a whole lot of qualifying passes. You don't have a whole lot of elimination runs to make before you can get into the money. That kind of structure is something that I would look for in going and doing a close by or closer by Midwest, swing, so to speak, where we're going to hit a couple of the smaller tracks. Doing 8th mile is definitely a benefit. I mean, I think for smaller crowds, the 8th mile, the groups can get closer. You know, there's not really much happens on small 8th mile tracks after the 8th mile, or even a 1,000 foot. You know, that you don't have bleachers filled up all the way down to the end. So once they get past you by a couple hundred feet, there's really not much more to see at that point, and that saves us a lot of money when it comes to running the car. It saves us a lot of maintenance. So, you know, those are the couple things that I would look for. I mean, I know there's a lot of diehard 1320 or not at all, you know, kind of guys out there. That's great, you know, and you need to go do the 1320 match races. And I know like Martin, Michigan had the deal there where they run quarter mile, but you know, that's quarter mile and NHRA top fuel is probably never going to come back. So just let it go. And then the Midwest, you know, anything in the Midwest, if it's 8th mile, if it's Chicago style, if it's, you know, just a couple days where you're not gone for a long time from work and things like that, I think would be a really good deal. And I would definitely do everything we could to help fly that flag and support that kind of a deal.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I haven't said this at all to anybody, but look, I love what Chris is doing with Funny Car Chaos, Nitro Madness, and now Nitro Chaos. Been thinking about how well do you think it would go over to do a Nitro No Time Nationals? Turn off the scoreboard, just have a win light, but Nitro.
Yeah, I'd be all for that. Yeah, I think that show would be good. I think a lot of these guys that are promoting this, you know, and even Chris, you know, if there's a little something more for some other members of the family, to get more people out there, could be a beneficial thing too. And I don't mean turn it into a circus, but in all honesty, there's going to be oil downs. There's going to be issues. And when they happen, if you got a couple younger kids that are sitting there cooking in the sun, you know, if they had a playground, if they had, you know, this or that they could go do, in the meantime to kill some time, yeah, I think it would be huge, because, you know, that's the biggest downfall that we have had as a family trying to go drag racing with little kids, is that they just get bored. You know, they like to see the cars go, but the cars aren't always going. And then there's that downtime, and they have short attention spans. All drag racers have short attention spans. Otherwise, we'd be going around in circles for 500 miles. So, you know, I think there's a lot that could be done with that. And no time deal with just a win light, you know, there would be nothing wrong with that in my eyes. I don't see anything that would be a downfall to that, because you have a winner and you have a loser. You know, if two people have two bad runs compared to the rest of the field, there's no disappointment, because nobody knows, because nobody can tell, you know, you know, in this stuff, a 380 versus a 385 or a 390 for that matter, you know, you just know one won and one lost. So yeah, I mean, that would be, there'd be nothing wrong with that. I think of, you know, I mean, there's a deal down in Texas, they call it JJ's arm drop, where they're still not using a Christmas tree, you know, and they're running pro mods that way. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I don't know about being in front of a nitro car. I don't know about that. I mean, look, we're not in the 1980s and early 90s anymore, and Doug Herbert isn't on the line, but still, you never know what might happen. So, Terry, look.
Sorry, I'm at the track. There's golf cart going by.
So, Terry, look, as we begin winding down the 59th episode of Between the Slicks. I'm 59 episodes in. It's hard to believe. But your expectations for this weekend, what are you looking for? I mean, certainly, who doesn't want to win, but what are you looking for from yourself, the car? Yeah, in particular, yourself being back behind the wheel. Do you feel a little rusty? Do you feel like you got to work on your reaction times, anything like that?
Reaction times, yeah. I'm going to really focus on that. You know, the last time I drove competition, first round was with Billy Torrance, and he's a good lever, and I wanted to leave on him, and I went red for the first time, and I watched the video very close, and I found out that maybe I didn't go red because of leaving too soon. It looks like I might have relaxed the brake and rolled another few inches forward and actually went that way red rather than when I stepped on it. So I've never gone red, so I don't know what it's like to until then. And now I have I would like to start taking a stab at the tree a little bit more. My reaction times have never been really the greatest, but I've always wanted to make sure that I don't go red. So now there's not a lot of pressure. So I'm going to go out to this first qualifying session, and I'm going to play with that a little bit, make sure the tree gets activated. And I don't use a porta tree or anything like that and sit and practice it like I know some guys do, which is probably a good thing. And if I was going to continue to really go into a fight for a championship or something like that, I'd probably be doing it too, like John Force does when he gets out of the car while he's all amped up. He goes over there and smacks that thing a few times just to, keep doing it. And reaction time is the number one thing that I need to work on. I think we know the limitations of the car at this point. I know, we can run in the 380s. And we'll do it when we have to. We maybe even go a little bit faster, into the low 380 if we really have good air and we can stand on it like we know we can. But for our first qualifying session out there, our next deal is, we need to go A to B and get our fuel curve and our clutch happy again. And then I can start pushing buttons and tweaking knobs for Sunday and take a shot at whoever I get. Hopefully we be qualified. I guess I'd be happy to qualify above it, like number 12 or higher. I guess there's a little less cars here. So, I don't think top half the field is going to be for what we can do because this track is known for running fast. I think we can be qualified anywhere around number 10, number 11. And then I think I'll take a good swing at it on Sunday and see what we can do. I don't have any really serious obligations to where if I have to put some pieces back together in the next week, that I'd be okay if I scored a few pistons and had to replace a rack and stuff like that. It wouldn't bother me too much, but we'll see what Sunday brings. We'll see how the car runs tomorrow night when we got the good air, and then we can tweak it from there.
Terry, man, hope you all have a stellar weekend, and I hope Sunday I'm looking at the national event coverage and the Terry Totten Motorsports Top Fuel Dragster is going rounds once again because you got some pressure on you, man. You're gonna be rolling to the line and they're gonna be saying, and the car that Joey Haas was in under the final rounds at the Mile High Nationals. Now the owner's in it. What can he do?
Yeah, and if I don't improve my reaction time, I know what they'll be picking on me for too. That guy needs to get out of the car and get Joey back in there. He can't drive. And we'll do what we can do, but I think we'll be all right. I think we're going to be able to give them something again on Sunday. That's my goal. I'm not going to let them. I'm not going to give it to them. They gave a couple rounds to us up in Denver. I'm not giving them back. They're mine.
Well, y'all keep taking, and I know you're going to do those A to Bs, and you're going to have the car right. And again, I hope it's a stellar weekend. Terry, thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of your time out there in Topeka, Kansas.
Thank you.
Folks, Terry Totten, Top Fuel driver, owner, tuner on a funny car. He's been in that thing too. He's doing it all there in drag racing. What a great story, and a story that harkens back to what drag racing definitely used to be, for sure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching Between the Slicks. I'm the Monday Morning Racer, Lee Craft. I'm going to be signing out here real soon. I've got to get up the road, and I want to get above Richmond, Virginia tonight so I can get on the road early in the morning and get to Reading, Pennsylvania, Maple Grove Raceway Park for PDRA competition. First time there in their Northern Nationals, as they are calling it. Let me close out with something that I did want to mention earlier in the show. Leah Pruitt has got a new sponsor on the car this weekend. Cookie Pop popcorn. There's also Candy Pop popcorn, as you can see here, a lot of different varieties. Now, I already went to my Walmart, and they said that that's where you could pick it up in the little town in North Carolina I am in, and nothing was on the shelf. But I did ask my mom, who works at a Publix. They had it in stock, but you can find that product supposedly at Walmart, Harris Teeter's, I'm sure some other type of high-end grocery stores. Go out and buy a bag of your particular favorite variety, or get them all. And do this. Try them, and if you like them, post a picture you eating them. Do a TikTok video, a YouTube short, or an Instagram reel, whatever it is, and connect it back to NHRA Drag Racing, Leah Pruitt, and show sponsors that we support those who come to the sport, as long as you do like the product. If you don't like the product, well, just don't say anything. I said something once. It didn't go over that well. Just don't say nothing. But go try that out. How can you not like Snickers and popcorn? Sounds pretty good to me. But so good to see another name and another brand coming into the sport. And what, I didn't put the picture up because it was announced here just recently, but DeWalt is going to be the title sponsor for the Carolina Nationals at the fall race at ZMAX Dragway. I think that's big. We've had traditional brands of tools such as Max, Snap-on, Matco, Cornwell. They've been players in NHRA drag racing, but I cannot remember the last time a name such as DeWalt was involved. That could open up the door for Milwaukee, Rigid, other type of brands to come in and play within NHRA drag racing. Let me say this again. Just support the brands that support drag racing. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the Monday Morning Racer. Until next time, God bless and keep the pedal to the metal. And if you see me at the PDRA, say something.